I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Town of Newfane Selectboard regular meeting for Monday, June 17th at 6 p.m. And are there any additions or amendments to the agenda?
I would recommend that we move Mr. McFadden from scheduled members of the public to a point right after the approval of minutes. Mr. McFadden has another meeting to go to tonight.
Okay.
Second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so on to the approval of the minutes for June 3rd. Are there any changes, corrections needed?
I make a motion to accept the meetings for June 3rd.
Second.
Okay.
Just before we vote, I've already spoken to Manette about it, and this is a stubborn Dutchman speaking, but my name wasn't spelled right here. There's no C in Hendrick, and Pete is P-I-E-T, which is the way the stubborn Dutch do it. Thank you.
Okay.
So motion to accept amended minutes.
Okay, so all those in favor say aye. I say no. Okay, so moving on to the executive session, we're gonna reconvene over in the town clerk's office.
I would, at this point, move to go into it, have the board go into executive session on a legal matter.
Okay,
I'll second that, Pete.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's go there.
I'd like to make a motion. I would make a motion that the board chair be authorized to contact an attorney, town attorney, request that he explore the possible acquisition by the town of property now owned by the Newfane School District, commonly known as the solar field,
Second.
and such other properties as may need to be transferred in such a sale.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any further discussion?
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Gosh, did we approve the minutes? Yes. Executive session, okay. So we're to the point in the agenda that we have a new select board person with us, Pete Van Loon. So it's time to reorganize and elect a new chair and a vice chair. So I've just been acting as a vice chair with Marion's resignation. So nominations for a chair.
I make a nomination for Pete Van Loon.
Second it.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
And I think
Way
you're already
too damn fast.
I almost thought you was already put in as vice chair anyways, before Marion left, right?
Who?
You.
I'm not
Oh,
sure.
I was acting
At
vice
their-
chair.
at their-
Actually, you were acting chair.
Yeah, but I was vice chair.
Right, I'm not sure we need to
You
revote a vice
Right,
chair.
no. Because you're already still in it.
I'm still here.
You were,
Okay.
Unless you don't want to be, then we can do
Yeah, so
something.
you're
This is the
acting.
time to do it. If you decide you don't want to do it, you want somebody else to do it, just speak up and we can change it now. If you want to do it, stay where you're at.
Right, right.
Well, I'll help Pete with the transition, so I'll just stay as vice chair.
Good.
Very good.
That was simple.
thank you, I think.
Thank you.
So,
Been a long time since I've been on this side of the table, as many of you know. And it's gonna be a while before I get caught up with what has happened in the interim. I appreciate all the work that's been done by so many people in the time that I was gone, and I will ask for help from each and every one of you from here on out, I do believe, and others. Now if I can find my agenda. Okay.
There we go.
Road business, road foreman and road commissioners, whichever one of you wants to take.
The wetlands meeting with the state wetlands coordinator went well, and she concurred with our engineer that we had hired. And the maps will eventually be changed to reflect the new boundaries. Apparently it's a very slow process, but eventually will happen. And that will help us with future, any permitting we need to do around the garage and so forth. When we go to get the permits for the sand salt shed and so forth, it'll make a difference. The guardrail work was completed on Dover Road, Depot Road, and Hickey Road. The ditching is continuing on Sunset Lake Road. Bruce Brook Road paving should be done this week. And the engineering bids for the sand salt shed project were reviewed last week, and the scoring of the committee made Bell Engineering the selection, and his price was $26,000.
So, I have a question as far as ditching goes. How's that going as far as the new machine that you're using?
That's doing well.
Yeah. There's one that was done up on South Wardsboro Road. That looks nice.
That was Sanborn extended our ditch out to the brook for that lady that lived there.
Oh, so that wasn't done by you?
Nope, we provided the truck. He loaded our truck and he did the work out through the lawn there, or the field.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Well, that will help that area, I imagine, right? Get the water off the road. There's a lot of
Yep.
streams there,
You said something about you hitting some ledge in places.
Quite a bit of ledge.
I bet.
I mean, what do you think, how you gonna handle that, you think?
I'm gonna see if I can get her to come up tomorrow and look at it. Whether she wants us to just, last time we had some ledge, we stoned right over it and it was all right. But I was hoping to get her to come out tomorrow and see if she can take a look and see what her.
Hammer it or something?
Well,
I
Mr.
mean, I was just gonna
Secretary,
say, what I recommend is, if you had to hire a hammer or something, why don't you just, if Clark's got one, let them come in and hammer it.
Okay.
You know, I mean.
I'll see if she thinks we can get away without it. If not, then.
Yeah, if there's just one hump sticking out, I'd probably recommend take a jackhammer and put a little stick of dynamite in it and touch her off, Well, you back up and dump the sand on and away it goes.
if we can get away with it, she said it's all right, that's good, that's saving us money.
Right.
Who's she? I'm not sure who we're talking about.
The woman that from Wyndham Regional that we work with on the ditching, she kind of oversees the grants for us.
Oh, okay.
Emily. So
Oh.
I made a couple calls to her, and hopefully she'll call back in the morning. So.
Well, like I said, whatever you guys decide, I think, so you don't have to come back and ask permission again, just go ahead and do what you feel. So it's done. Because you don't want to make a hump stick out, you have to ride around it and the water comes out. Either one, so.
Okay, you mentioned, again, just to keep me on track and so forth, you mentioned a contract that you are making a recommendation on.
The sand salt shed is federal money,
Yeah.
and so the municipal assistance bureau from V-Trans kind of steer it in the right direction.
Okay.
So they tell us what's gonna happen. What we did was we scored each of the engineers' proposals. You're supposed to score them without prices. And then when you get the prices, you kind of rethink things a little bit, but they went from 10,000 to 49,000 for the engineering. And of course the state guy liked the highest bid and I liked the lowest bid, but they felt the lowest bid didn't include, it was too little. that they didn't feel they could do the job for that much money. So they kind of compromised, and we were happy with the second bid, which was Bell Engineering, and Chris and I had scored that one fairly well, and then Marion from Wyndham Regional, she scored it, and then this guy from the state scores it.
Okay.
And it came out that we kind of overrode his bid or his scoring. So apparently, because it's being done by them, I had her check today, I called Marion today, it doesn't actually have to get voted on at the select board meeting. They kind of,
That's where I was trying not to
yeah,
go.
yeah. So it's, they pretty much steer it, and, I mean, they get input from us, but they basically, they're making sure we meet all the federal requirements to make everything happen. So that's their job, is to steer us right and get us to a shed when we get done, so.
So we still have to pay for it?
No, the grant money pays for it, so,
That's good.
Do you think that shit'll happen this year?
no, next year. That's the one thing I've noticed, it's a very slow process, so.
Okay. Mr. You have add to that?
No, I work with Jay most every day,
Yeah.
go over stuff with him. Everything's good. I'm happy.
Same like before. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Is there any problems with the roads right now, like needing to be firmed up or anything, or that sort of stuff?
We tried to get caught up on the grading as best we could before we had to get into this ditching project. And I think most of them are in pretty good shape. We had a tree down today up on top of Sunset Lake that took the wires partially off the pole. So we're still doing that, but we're trying to get the ditching done. A lot of that has to be done by the end of June. So we're trying to focus on that.
Oh.
And then we've got all the rest of our ditching to do, but to get the grant money, we're
Oh,
trying
in
to
order
get,
to meet the criteria.
yep, so we're trying to focus on that right now. Yep.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. Administrative assistance report.
It's been a very busy 2 weeks just doing administrative work. We have a new cleaning service. Sierra Pratt is working well. She also does the Williamsville Hall cleaning. Next week, I have plans to start cleaning the outside of the building. I purchased the flags myself to go up on the front of the building for the upcoming 4th of July holiday festivities. I've also done some decorating and refreshing up in the restrooms at no cost to the town. It's been noticed and well received. And Doris asked me to inform the select board that they will need to be a special meeting the week of July 8th to set the new tax rate.
And is that up to us to set or the listers?
It's up to you. Well, I assume it will be up to you to set, but she will let me know when. It's okay, because they're gonna be doing grievances the first week after our select board meeting. So
Okay,
she
so
said
she'll have-
sometime in the week of July 8th,
We'll have the date for us at our next meeting.
of course.
So I have a question. So what are you planning on cleaning the outside of the building? I don't understand what that means.
I'm gonna use a hose and a power nozzle to take the dust and the cobwebs down.
Isn't that, I mean, I don't know of any administrative assistant that does that.
Well,
Isn't there somebody that we can contract to have that washed?
I don't
And
want
I
to. I
guess-
don't want to use a power washer because some of the paint is already chipping on the lister's office. So I was just going to try using some of the power nozzle on a hose, and I wanted to get the flags up before the 4th of July.
I don't know. I've just never seen anybody doing that as far as, that's not really in your job description?
Reactions? Anybody? Anything?
No, you said you're doing it on your own time, didn't you?
No, I don't think so. I think it's doing town's time to do
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I guess if you got time to do it without, it doesn't interfere with the work in here. You know, you try it, give it a shot, and if not, we could ask that other guy to help out, you know?
Yeah.
Jay probably asked what's his name, and mows the lawn and stuff, right?
Well, I just think that there's a lot more other things that she could be doing than cleaning the outside of the
Well, as
building.
long as it, yeah, as I said, as long as it doesn't interfere with it in here, you know?
Well, it's gonna be on her time for work here.
Mm-hmm.
As long as your duties are done and everything is good. Who maintains the outside of the building anyway and cleans?
I don't think anybody does.
The,
If-
Mark, Gray does the
The
ground,
lawns and
Just the
stuff,
lawn.
right?
but he doesn't do the building.
We would have
Just
to
to like
contract-
power wash the winter dirt off of
So-
it to make it
We
look
have to
nice?
contract that
I
out.
think so far the town has used contractors
Yeah,
for that kind of thing. And it's probably been done only when the building was about to be painted. But, yeah, I'm not sure. Well,
well, I'm not happy with it. I wouldn't, you know,
would you like to recommend that we hire a contractor?
well, I think that we could look at it as a select board, but, you know, to see if that's something that we need to do. But I don't think Juanita is the one to make the decision as to clean the outside of the building.
I don't think she made the decision, she asked.
But if we're gonna have it done by the 4th, we ain't
But
got
she has
another meeting, right?
plans to start cleaning, so.
There's not another meeting between now and the 4th anyways, is there?
No. Our next meeting.
I guess what I would recommend, if you could find somebody to hose it down, let them hose it down between now and then. Get a price out of them, run it by Pete. Chair.
Or I'll just come in early and do it on my own time. I'd like to get the flags up as soon as
Yeah.
possible.
Whatever, you know.
Yeah, I think that's something outside the hours for the administrative assistant.
If, at this particular point, if Juanita wishes to come in early or stay late, or on a weekend or something to do it, we have nothing to say about it, except that, because I don't believe there'd be any damage to the town property. I would let it go at that. I think it's a nice gesture. And I would probably say it'd be better done outside of work hours. Unless someone wants to make a motion other than approval of the administrative assistant's report.
What's that?
I was just wondering if there were a motion other than approval of the administrative assistant's report. If there is not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the administrative assistance report and the road foreman's report.
Thank you.
No problem.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's further discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye. Any opposed?
I oppose the administrative assistant's report. I think it's not sufficient for us to know what she's been doing the last couple of weeks.
Okay, well, we'll work on that one. Mr. Guenther, as a scheduled member of the public.
Yes, good evening, folks. I'm Bill Guenther, the town tree warden and retired Wyndham County forester as of last year after 32 years.
How'd you like to be dog warden too?
Excuse me?
Would you like to be dog warden too?
That one they
Trees.
pass.
We save on spelling.
I'm better with trees. They're easier to manage. I was contacted by Greg Record, president of the Newbrook Fire Department, to take a look at the big ash tree next to the Williamsville fire station. And I think, Pete, you may have been the only one on the board in 1996. Does that sound about right?
I don't remember.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of brief history that will help sort of frame the discussion of this tree. Back in the mid-90s, John Spicer went through a training program that our department offered to try to promote urban and community forestry work in different villages and towns and whatnot. And so what came out of that training was we decided we were going to do an inventory and a plan for possible tree planting in both Williamsville and South Newfane. We weren't going to do anything here up to the center, but all over there, because that's where the folks that were interested lived. So we got a number of grants to do both planning and planting. We planted a number of trees, especially in Williamsville. And then we did a complete inventory. And we were assisted by Wyndham Regional, and I've got a map here that shows all the trees. And I think it takes 3 maps to see all of Williamsville, but these trees are all located by GPS and they're within 3 feet of their actual locations, so it's pretty accurate. So what our goal was to try to outplant things a little bit more. We looked at some of the Porter Fair photographs, and we were trying to create a village that looked a little more like it did in the old days. And frankly, part of the group's interest too was traffic calming, because it's been shown that if you can create tree canopy, that does tend to slow folks down. So it was a good group. Unfortunately, it's not been very active. John Spicer and his late wife Tar were the major spark plugs for it. Bud Bergman was pretty involved. Ed Drupe Sr. was very involved. He did a lot of work with his tractor. So we did a lot of really good things. So bottom line is we've got a fair amount of information on these trees in the village. We did the original inventory and plan in 1996. 10 years later, we followed up with another sort of check on the trees to see how they were doing. And the ones we planted were growing like crazy. That one at right at the corner of Mr. Walker's Road there that goes down Gristmill Road, that oak right on the corner, that was a 2.5-inch tree. We put it in 1996. And then we subsequently did another inventory check in 2011. So now coming to the subject tree. Are most of you aware of which tree that we're talking about? It's a large white ash, and it's less than 10 feet away from the edge of the building. Last time we measured the diameter, it was 48.5 inches. So that's basically 4 foot through, and then if you multiply that by pi, it's a big tree. When we did the inventory, we used a couple types of hazard tree analysis. We used one that my department, that being the Forest Parks and Recreation, developed. We used another one that the feds developed. And it's basically looking at different attributes of the tree that could have a negative impact on it or cause it to fail. And one of the big things is target that we look at. So if the tree fails, what's the worst case scenario? That tree is leaning towards the road. So if it fails and comes down, it's going to take out that whole 3-phase power line that runs through the village. And God forbid if anybody's driving by when it happens. So we'll sort of fast forward to last Thursday. I met with Jay and Greg, and Ed McGrath was there representing Robert Goldenhill, who's the abutting neighbor. And we looked things over pretty well. And the tree has, I don't want to bore you with too many details, but it's got a number of issues. It's got a restricted root zone, and as trees grow, their roots grow. But if the top's going to grow, there's got to be enough down below, what we call root to shoot ratio. And there's literally nowhere else for that tree's roots to go, because it's right next to the firehouse, next to the road. So basically 2/3 of its root zone are negatively impacted. The major issue that it has is it's got a number of mushrooms, or what we technically call fruiting bodies, that are on a couple of the branches. And those are going to indicate that there's decay and rot in those branches. Now, it's exactly hard to say, how dangerous that is without actually going up and doing a lot of drilling and testing. Some trees wall off wounds pretty well, some don't so well. Couple things else that are going on with the tree. It was cabled a number of years ago, but the cables were really put in, they're really too low to be effective from a sort of a physics standpoint. When you think about forces, if the tree fails, those cables should be about 15 feet higher than they are. So if it splits down the middle, there's a good chance that those cables could possibly fail. The crown of the tree, when you look at the leaf cover, it's pretty good. That's the best part of the tree. I mean, you don't see a whole lot of sky through the tree, and that part of it hasn't changed much since we inventoried it. What was it? Well, 23 years ago. I guess was the first inventory. But it has one more branch that has mushrooms on it, and that's the concern. So Greg came to me and said, "Can we take a look at it?" And I guess the department has voted that they would like to remove the tree. It is in the public right-of-way, so it comes under the purview of the town tree warden. If the town tree warden, as per statute, deems that the tree is a hazard, he or she can basically effect the removal of the tree based on that decision. There is an additional step. There's a public meeting process in the tree warden statutes. In my near 30 years as the town tree warden, we've only used it once. Some of you may remember the Twin Pines out on the corner of Cross and West Street that were there. They came down, we did hold a public hearing. I won't go into all the politics of that, but things got very muddied in that one, but they were removed. So in this case, I could just say, yeah, the tree has a high enough score in one of these hazard tree analysis that it should come down. But in talking with Jay and especially Greg, we really felt that it would be best to hold a public meeting if there were concerns. That way I would be there, I would convene it, and I think we need 30 days notice for a public meeting like that, I believe. So my plan would be to hold that meeting. Usually, the last one I did, there was somebody there taking minutes. I think Shannon may have taken minutes at the last one when she was here. And then I'll usually give a spiel about, okay, the tree has this problem, or this is a good part. I'll try to do an analysis of the tree. And there's a number of approaches you can use. This is one booklet put out by Bartlett Tree Service, which has a lot of good information. And then I went to a training up to the Rockefeller Historical Park Tree Risk Management Workshop. That was back in '03. And that was put on by the feds. And they have also an analysis you can use to determine how hazardous a tree is. So we've tried to use some science and not just say, well, it's a bad tree or it's a good tree. But the bottom line is it's got some problems, but it's significant. It's going to make a real difference if it comes down. Things are going to look real different. So we thought we should have a public meeting for that.
Can I just ask, your profession is as a...
I am a forester.
That's what I thought,
Yeah,
okay.
I have a forest management degree from UVM. Should have been 75, but Uncle Sam with a draft letter slowed me down a little bit. I ran out of money and then got called up to service, so I finally got out in '82. And then I worked as a private consulting forester for a while, commercially logged for 2 years, and then I joined the State Forest and Parks Department in 1984. I am not a certified arborist. The key certification for arborists are done through ISA, International Society of Arboriculturalists, but I had a real interest in urban tree work, and while a lot of my work was in large woodlots overseeing the current use program, I really took an interest in it because of our historic villages. And even though I'm retired now, I have expressed to Side Judge Duff and Lamont Barrett that I'd like to continue. So I'm managing the green for them. In fact, we're going to be out there tomorrow morning doing some pruning there.
Oh.
So that's a little more of my background.
That's what I thought. I mean, it's hard to keep track of everybody's professions around here, but I think I thought I had seen you somewhere before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was out and about. Had a wonderful career. I felt very blessed, but I think the workload, when I came on, there were 333 properties in current use, and I signed the 1600th management plan last fall.
For the town of Newfane?
For the county.
Oh, for the county?
Yeah, there's over 100 properties in Newfane.
Yeah.
So it's a popular program. Some people look at it as just a way to save taxes, but I encourage them to look at it as it's really a stewardship program, is how our department looks at it. It's land that's going to be taxed for its current use. And if you're using it to grow trees, wood product, which is our second biggest manufacturing industry in the state, then you get a reduction in taxes. There's a lien put on your land, though, so if you want to develop it, you've got to pay 10% of the value of that portion that you remove or develop from the property. So it's a pretty serious commitment. I mean, there's some folks in town who I flat out said, I don't think the program's for you, but it's for you to decide. So a little bit more on my background, but this is a tough one. I mean, the tree, if it was 100 feet away from the firehouse out back, I'd say not so much for a problem. But where it is, the location really concerns me. It was great to have Jay there because we talked about how we would deal with traffic control issues, and being a class 2 road, apparently they're hard to shut down. Dummerston actually is going to shut down East-West Road, I think tomorrow or Wednesday, to do their culvert work. But if you shut down that road, just look at a map, look at geography, you can't really get around anywhere else. So it's a real problem. So we would try to probably do it with one lane probably will have to be blocked, and we'll have to work out traffic control on what the department would likely do is put it out to competitive bid, and then I'll help them with sort of the contract provisions, because when you have a tree taken down, you've got to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. So if you just have the tree down and leave all the wood and all the branches there, it's not so expensive, but if you chip everything and get it off site, then there's the question of, do folks want to use some of it for firewood, but then there's liability issues if you have the public there cutting up wood. So there's a whole lot of ways you can play it, but the key is to make sure the contract covers what you want. My recommendation was not to worry about grinding the stone, because that's very expensive, it's pretty disruptive with the soil, and if you just flush cut the stump, it's going to eventually rot. So that's sort of where we are with it. So it's a tree that's been studied carefully for 20-some years.
So I guess you're asking for the town to cut it down?
No.
He's asking for a public hearing.
The fire department is basically, they are,
Responsible.
my understanding was, Jay, they were willing to pay for it, although there may be some help there on the side, but we'll have to see how that pans out. But, so it wouldn't be done at any cost to the town, because Newbrook, my understanding is it
Who
is
actually
private.
owns it?
The tree is actually owned by the fire department, and trees in the right of way. This gets
Now, I want to say something. I remember when the fire department was built,
that was in the 50s, I believe, Chris.
the Jennings family gave the land to the fire department with the stipulation that tree would never be cut.
Oh, no.
Well, it's bad, it's dangerous now, I mean, but that's what
And that's
happened.
where a public hearing would come into place for the town to make the ultimate decision, right?
But I do know that for a fact, because I remember it.
Oh, wow.
Well, as per statute, the selectmen, you folks appoint me each year, so I serve at your pleasure, but the tree warden does make the decision at the public meeting. Of course, if you don't like my decision, you can always fire me, I guess.
I like your decision, I just had to say that, because
That's really interesting, Chris. I'd not heard, is that in writing anywhere?
probably,
You work like you got the deed.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it, but
Well, that's an
Okay.
interesting,
I guess that the action that we should take tonight is to authorize I'll do it, authorize the chair to find out what the statutory requirements are for warning a hearing like this and arranging for a date and place. The place would probably be Wisdom Hall and or outside.
So you can see
I would
the
suggest
tree.
having it right there.
Yeah.
My goal would be to
That's
basically
fine.
go through it, like we did the other day. When you analyze a tree, you know, some people start at the top. I usually start at the bottom, because that's real key, what's going on with the roots, and then I work up from there and then point out the good points and the bad points.
One person.
Unfortunately, it's all bad points except the density of the crown. That looks pretty good. You don't see a lot of sky through that. If you're looking at a tree and it's got a really sparse crown, that's usually a sign of some sort of problem. But at the same time, if we've got a covenant on a deed, then I don't know, I guess it's...
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
I haven't
If-
seen it on the deed. I've read the deed, but I haven't seen that.
Oh, so you don't think it was an actual covenant then on the deed? Was-
It was just stated as,
It was stated for
Well,
the family.
probably.
Now, would this be Fred Janice's parent?
Yes,
You say that'd be in the 60s?
I think.
and before that, I think.
I think Greg said what, 56? I think.
Yeah,
Went up.
yeah, I think so. That was the same time the blacktop through Wisdom, 56.
56. Would do you have any idea where that might be in writing? Or do you think Fred would have something?
I don't know.
Would it be attached to the deed, like what you were saying?
But my thinking would be that if there's nothing on the deed, we don't have anything to worry about
Yeah,
in the long run.
well,
legally, yeah. I
it
would
only
think
matters
that
if
would
it's
be
in the
case.
deed.
But at the same time, I don't know, maybe would this be something we should talk to Fred about, get his opinion from what his folks wanted? I mean, things do change. I mean, trees, you know, they're like us. Eventually, they get old and they die. No tree lives forever, although some can live a pretty long time. There's
It's been a life-
bristlecone pines out in Nevada that are 5,000 years old.
It's been cabled, so it's been on life support, right?
Yeah, and it's got where it branches out, it's got a big seam there. So the problem is those cables are just too low when you think about the forces that are going to be exerted. So if you kind of look at the potential energy and then go to kinetic if it fails, those are not going to hold that tree in all
Is the
way.
tree, if you're looking at the fire department, is it on the right side or?
On the right.
On the right side?
Yeah, and it's less than 10 feet away from the corner of the building. That's the problem. So when you think about roots, the traditional thinking was roots went out about to the drip line or a little past.
Oh, yeah.
They've done more research down at their, UMass has a really good arboriculture program. And their head, their department, Dr. Dennis Ryan, he did a lot of research on how far roots actually go. He actually found that, now these aren't big roots, we're talking like little root hairs, but he found that they can actually go 2 to 3 times the radius of the crown of the tree. And one thing I wrote down, just as a little tidbit, he looked at an apple tree and he found a tiny, tiny small root hair. And by DNA analysis, he determined that this root hair came from this apple tree and it was 223 feet away. And I've never seen an apple tree with more than a 20, 25 foot wide crown. So, now that was somewhat of an anomaly, but the point being, you know, we think that, well, if we do construction or there's activity, as long as we stay away from close to the tree or even the drip line, but that may not be enough. That's the problem. So that tree's roots would like to be probably almost over to the river, in fact, from where it is.
Well, I remember when we did the road down here, going up into the gravel bank, under the power line, cut the trees in the wintertime, burnt the brush, then come spring, I had the real windy day. Remember them things that burning way up in the woods? I went and dug the stump up, and then the roots are like whole. And they've been burning underground all the way up on that side bank. You finally got a little air on it, and they come up on the way up on that hillside.
Right.
You get I was a wildland firefighter for a number of years and went out west, and I our biggest challenge often were what we call ground fires. There's ground fires up top, surface fires, and then ground fires. And ground fires, they can burn. Yeah, I've got a buddy who lives in Alaska. They just got one out, but they said it's going to burn underground till winter comes and it gets smothered. So, so if the department did remove the tree, my suggestion would be to leave the stump intact, because it's going to be a lot less disturbance, and it's not cheap. You've got to use a special machine with carbide blades, and it'd probably be $300 to $500 just to get the stump out.
Make a chair out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be neat if something could be
Willow
made.
bear or something.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Welcome sign,
Put a
right?
flower pot on it.
Smokey the Bear.
Slow traffic calming sign.
Yes.
Would someone be willing to make a motion to authorize me to explore the history and to work on a schedule and get the warning out for a public meeting on the ash tree?
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
okay,
Thank
so
you, Bill.
you want me to be, welcome.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, you have my number? Or?
I'll keep in touch so I can find you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll give it to you if you want. It's 4252, 365 up on the hill there on Bench Mountain.
Yeah.
4252, and my email is real easy. It's just billg@sober.net. Okay, so BILLG and SOBER.ND.
So if anyone's having any tree issues in town.
They can call me. I don't think my successor is doing, he's so burdened with current use, I don't think he's doing what we used to call shade tree calls. I used to do actually quite a bit of them. They were a good public service because of it, our biggest plus was we had no economic interest in the tree. We were going to defer it to a certified arborist, but so we could give a fair analysis.
But you are the town tree warden. Yes.
So my purview was trees within the right of way, though. And when we did, I should add that when we did a number of those plantings in both of the villages, at that time, the select board, actually you were not on it at that time, Pete. I think it was in between times. But the select board really felt they didn't want trees too close to the roads. So they made us plant them outside the right of way. And that's a 3-rod road. Rod is 16.5 feet. So basically 24 feet 9 inches off the center line is where the town right of way goes. So a number of those trees we planted are 25 feet off the center line. And we had to get an easement. We were the only town in the state that, but that was the select board's position. They didn't want them too close, I think, for highway purposes. And it wouldn't have been appropriate to put some of them that close, for sure. But so I always hate to see a nice tree come down, but I agree with the fire department on this. And we're getting more violent weather. That's another issue. We're getting a lot more microbursts, a lot more violent thunderstorms. And that could be the thing that brings it down.
Well, thanks for looking at it. Bringing it to our attention.
Okay, well, I'll just wait to hear back from you then.
Yep, you'll hear something soon.
Okay, great.
Do we have anything from an unscheduled member of the public? We'll move into old business.
Could I actually,
Yeah.
I'll do this as a private citizen. I do have one thought.
You're on.
On Bench Road, right at the bottom of my driveway, the culvert that was put in when Kurt was here, that one got hit by a storm prior to Irene. And let's see, Irene was 2011. Yeah, I think it was 08. We had 3 big storms up on the mountain there that took out Bench Mountain Road pretty much completely. But one of them left that culvert, I think it's a 14 or 16 inch, about a third of it was filled with just gravel and debris. And then when Irene hit, it's up even higher. So that culvert it's over half full pretty much now. And I guess Jay's left.
I'll take care of it.
Is the fire department, are they still using the trucks, the high pressure pumps to pull
Yeah.
things out?
They are?
Well, we can come out.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I don't know, if you want to take a look at it, Chris, or give me a call, I'll be happy
I'll
to.
talk to Jay about it probably tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, I'm just afraid that if we get another
I talk to
quarter.
him every day, basically,
Yeah,
go over stuff every morning, try to.
yeah, I think when it was set, I don't know, I was taught in forest engineering, you set a three degree pitch at least on it. I think it was maybe set almost, by the time they got done with it, I think it's about neutral best, which is why it didn't drain all the debris.
Is it plastic or metal?
Plastic.
Okay.
And it's got the flanges on the front, but
Yeah.
when that storm hit and Kurt brought the backhoe down, the flanges are pretty much busted out.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
don't hold up after a while.
I'll talk to him about it tomorrow.
Okay, great, appreciate it.
Thank you, and thank you,
Welcome.
Chris.
Okay.
Okay, old business, town office, relative to the configuration plan. I think this is something that I heard of very recently, but so somebody walked me through.
It was brought to my attention that there was a plan made up, and I'm not really sure what year, but from Melissa, and question of being able to put those walls up, which would be per this diagram that was developed some years ago. And then I also received today, apparently someone said that the floors need to be redone. So, and then we as the board have to write the bid up for doing the floors, doing the walls. That was my understanding. My answer to my question, to the question was like, who's in charge of this?
Well, there's no question that this board is, but my question would be, who says the floor needs to be done?
Somebody in the offices, they had stated that the floors needed to be refinished. That's,
Oh, okay.
I'll just say that.
When you said redone, I thought torn up,
No, refinished.
put down, which sometimes gets me in a scare.
Yeah. Well, it's scary just to think about having this floor redone.
But we can.
All this stuff in here.
We can go out for bids on that. It would, I have no idea how long it would take a flooring contractor to get this whole place done, particularly with the amount of stuff that has to be moved from here to there and then from there back to here.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know about the budget, what we have in the budget for, I think there is some money in the capital expense, maybe 75,000 or something like that. But that's not really gonna get you too far.
What it was on this plan, what they did years ago on this one, is when they redid underneath the pins and they were gonna, remember they wanted to build a new office? They had a committee and they come up with a plan like this, just showing some drawings of if they went in here with it. And then that all come to a halt when they were talking about putting on the addition and all that stuff, but I don't see why something like this wouldn't work anyways, Do away with these partition things and you build some regular walls and a door on the office to each one.
Yeah, she was saying like a glass door, it'll make it a little bit more private, and also there's echoing in here, and the noise level during the day gets pretty intense. So there's,
I don't think they were going to close in the ceilings. They were just going up.
Go for ways. You gotta be able to let the heat.
Right.
Actually, it's gotta be a vent in the bottom,
right.
open in the top so the heat can circulate.
Yeah, because I would hate to ruin the ceiling, the tin ceilings.
Right.
No, you don't need to go up that high.
Right.
Yeah.
8 feet would probably be perfectly adequate. Wouldn't you say, Pete?
Sorry?
Go up 8 feet with petitions, and that'd be enough.
Yeah, I have no idea what they had in mind back when. My understanding was that they were gonna go all the way up at the same time. Be nice to know whether an 8-foot or whatever would do the work, do the job for them. Give them the quiet, they give them the privacy, no problem, but
Well,
we'll give them,
Well, go 10 feet, the ceiling's high enough.
yeah.
You gotta be able to have heat circulation.
Well, right here on the note on the bottom, because I'm just a woman, I don't know, but the transom windows are 4 required shall be Brosco. So I think the idea was to go all the way to the ceiling, but they are talking about transom windows, what, you know.
They're 3 foot by 2 foot.
Yeah, I know, but it's also, knee wall should be 2x4 studs at 16" on center, with 1.5 GWB on both sides.
Yep. Which is typical. But the transom windows are 1, 2, 3. I'm interested that they, I guess that was,
4 required. So it's probably on this floor plan.
well, those are the 4. I think,
There's 2 in the center one. 2 windows in the center.
agreed, but I
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
noting that it would appear that the one for the treasurer's office would open so that people would have access or be able to talk through the window. That's beside the point. It's too soon to get worried about detail.
No, I think the transom window is more of just having the light and also have the heat
That's-
be able to go in. That's why there's transom windows. This is not a window like down below. It's just really at the top of, say, a 6-foot, 8-foot wall or something.
All right, first problem we have, I believe, is determining how high, if we were gonna do this, how high they would be, or, let me step back a minute, we might be able to get somebody to give us some professional advice on what should be done here, how to take this and turn it into something that would be workable. And I'd be willing to
So we had a building committee at one time too, and then that all went away when they didn't do the addition. But we had the building committee up first, you know, because they went underneath this building, jacked it all up, fixed some of the beams and all
Yeah.
that stuff, and then they put down a vapor barrier and all that stuff in it. And
All right.
then we, after we voted on not doing that, remember we had to repaint the whole inside and
Right.
outside.
Yeah,
So then after that, the committee just kind of went away. But,
right.
you know, we had a committee looking at all this, but I mean, there's probably no reason, like, like I said, if, you know, we recommend to Pete maybe to check out, you know, somebody to see what we would do for height.
I'll try to talk to a couple of contractors just as
Then we'll just, once we come up with
Favorite type
something,
thing.
just put it out to bid and comes in with our budget, maybe we could do it.
I think we have to have more information than what we have
Right.
here now.
Right, yes, definitely.
Go.
As I say, you know, coming out with all the information, and when you get it all, we'll bid it out and,
Yep.
you know, just like the floor, if they were gonna redo it, probably do it before maybe before they stud the walls all over.
Right, that's
So
what
it'd be a lot
they-
quicker, just do the whole thing, it would be the in and out of each other little room. But I think so far the building looking pretty good for what we did do to it. For the paint
Yeah,
jobs
looks
and the
good.
outside and everything else, so.
Okay, I'll go out and see what I can dig up on that.
Thank you, Pete.
Any other old business to come before us?
We're gonna load your ass right up with all kinds of stuff, Pete.
Sorry?
We're gonna load you right up with all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just passing word along.
Do it, do it. Okay, brings us to new business, and there's some health and safety concerns on 542 Vermont Route 30. Someone speak to that on my behalf?
Yeah, so it's been brought to my attention by several people in town that there's a concern about the building. I actually went into it recently with a real estate agent. There is garbage piled up all throughout the building. There's animal and human feces throughout the building on the floors. The floors are literally brown with feces. And the concern is that this, of course, the roof is falling in and things are falling out of the front of the house into maybe the roadway. So the question of whether or not it is for sale, it's owned by the bank, and it's at 19.5, I think it is. Huh?
I thought it was sold.
Been sold.
It has been sold?
That's what
I
I've
heard it was sold.
Well, that's hearing and whatever, I don't know.
Has it been sold or is it being sold or what?
There was a gentleman in today that's under contract and it should be signed within 3 days.
Oh,
So
So I don't think the town needs to even worry about that now.
our approach will change.
well, so my other question is also is like, up in the town of Rockingham, they're looking at nuisance building ordinances. And it's not the only building in town that has a concern. There's other concerns of other buildings in town. So just wanted to bring your attention to it. It might be something that we pay attention to, what they're doing up there. They're going a little bit beyond just building nuisance ordinances, that even if your grass isn't mowed, you know, if it's weed, you know, knee-high or whatever, they're considering fining people.
Good
So,
luck.
but I know Rockingham has taken on a lot of properties that they've had to condemn and fence off and tear down to like the tune of about $200,000. So, it is an issue. I mean, certainly coming in through our town, it's a welcome, you know, that we give to people. And just as a reminder, I think the town of Newfane, the village of Newfane is the most photographed village in all of Vermont. So, something to be considered.
Well, I guess like I said, if we got somebody, if they do have somebody to buy it, let's see what happens when he's got going and find it somehow. Because if he has to close it, I imagine he's got plans on doing something, he's gonna knock it down and fix her up.
So let's hope.
Nice project.
If we get into a discussion of whether or not we want to ask, you know, the likelihood of the planning commission to design, to draft some health and safety, or whatever you want to call them, ordinance, fine and dandy. But at this particular point, I think that would be the way to go.
Would that be part of the bylaws that they're working on now?
No.
Or part of the,
I don't know of any zoning bylaws that include something like that. I should not have shake my head say no so fast. It might be that you could incorporate something along those lines if you had, well, that might be, so leave it at that.
I've seen where they've had like junkyard stuff or,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
Well, I'll call it out very quickly. The very fine, very good, very fine, wonderful and dandy, but who the hell is going to enforce them?
right, that's another problem.
We've got zoning, we've got zoning problems, we have zero enforcement. another night,
Okay.
another 40
Right.
days.
Just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
Other
that's
people are
my-
concerned in town.
It's my initial, perhaps a little bit negative reaction, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Anything else under new business? Executive session?
I don't think we have one.
You've had it.
Done.
I was under the impression that we were going to ask for an executive session.
That was at the very beginning of the meeting, but I'll let you handle that going forward. Since we had the school situation,
No, I understand that,
yeah.
but
Was there another reason to have an executive session?
my understanding was that if a board member wanted to go into executive session on a personnel matter.
No, nothing came about. It
Okay,
doesn't need to happen.
fine. All right, correspondence.
Okay.
Right behind you.
Okay, the first is a note from a gentleman named Harvey Trezon who lives at the upper edges of Wiswall Hill, pretty well up there. Members of the select board, this past winter, the town snowplow cleared the road to my driveway, and I appreciate that. However, in turning around in my driveway, they have, 1, destroyed a wooden post at the side of the drive, 2, moved rocks covering my well, leaving an opening that a person or animal could fall into. Truck track marks on my lawn are still very visible. I'm almost 80 years of age, no longer able to move heavy objects. Please have the road crew replace the rocks to cover the well before a person or animal falls into it. Can you follow up on that?
Don't even know where it is.
Well, it's,
We'll give you the info.
yeah, it's 299 Wiswall Hill Road.
Oh, yeah, that's way up there.
I sent the email to Jay this morning, so he's aware of
Okay.
it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, I didn't know that. Okay, we have a notice here, and it's only a notice. I'm sorry, I'm gonna jump ahead. This is that the septic system for WW will, as it was before, come onto town property. It's a notice called Notice of Overshadowing at the time of filing an application for a wastewater system and potable water supply system. And if a system does go over the line, it's called overshadowing. I don't know exactly why, but it is. And all that needs to be done is for the owner of the person putting in the application for the wastewater system, notify the neighbor. We are the neighbor. We've been notified. And unless anyone has any questions, we'll file it.
You said it had happened before, is that like on the opposing side of the building?
Well, the septic system,
You have-
there's a plan here.
Yeah, but I mean, it had happened before, and was it on the other side of the building that it overshadowed that property next door?
No, it's over here.
Yeah, but you're saying it's happened before, it's happened other times in
Well,
town.
they're improving their system, which will essentially move as well onto our land, my understanding. But they are already have part of their system, their existing system, so that there really is no real change. They had part of their system on town property, they will have part of the system.
So they're essentially just upgrading what's already there.
Yeah, and they have to notify us, they have, and I think we're set.
So their system comes all the way over from that building.
Well, you can see that on this. There's their new building, there's
Yeah.
us. This is the top, there's the line right there.
Yeah,
So this part is considered to be overshadowed.
yeah. I didn't realize they had an existing system there. And I was just thinking it would be over by the building versus in the yard.
Okay, we have a memorandum from Carol Hasselback, town clerk. And it's relative to an increase in recording fees and allocated funds. Excuse my voice, please. 2019 Vermont legislature passed a bill, H 526, which goes into effect on July 1st, 2019, and which mandates changes to recording fees and allocation of recording fees. A summary of the changes in recording fees is attached. $4 per page of the recording fee is to be set aside in a dedicated restoration and preservation reserve fund, an increase from the 10% which we have been allocating. This fund is mandatory and the money carries over from year to year. This fund is to be used for, quote, restoration, preservation, digitization, storage, and conservation of municipal records. There are now annual reporting requirements from clerks, which I will learn more about shortly. I can advise you of those requirements if you wish after I learn what they are. And attached was this chart from the state that shows what the fees will be starting July 1st.
And that
Okay.
will be posted around the building, I
Which is
assume.
in the town clerk's office.
Yes.
Get your pennies together.
Okay, we have a contract from the Vermont State Police, which essentially would extend what I believe is the contract you now have in place, or we now have in place. It, in essence, would provide one officer, 2.5 hours a week, for 132 weeks.
It's like a 2-year contract, isn't it, right?
Yes, July 120, no, it's a 1-year
It's a
contract.
1-year contract.
Yeah,
Figure that one out. I'll have to follow up on that.
Yeah. Multiple line through, like any number of weeks. Oh, it's multiply a line number 3 by a total number of weeks. And that's the, enter the total amount. So number 3 is the hours times the weeks, and that's the hours total for the year.
Thank you.
Yep.
143 hours.
132. And the total contract cost would be $9,997.13.
And not to exceed 10,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's minimal, I think. Yeah, I don't, whether or not we need more.
Well, they're here a lot anyways, and they don't charge us for all the calls that come, regular domestic calls and, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's separate. This is,
That's
Yeah, this is
traffic.
just us.
Only,
That's
yeah.
what, so they say, but anything else, I mean, they're in town a lot.
They're on my road a lot.
or on my road now and again.
Really washing up on your road.
Okay, the,
A yellow Volkswagen.
as the new kid, was there any thought given to going to the sheriff for their,
No,
okay.
Well, no by him, but
No, we had the sheriff.
I know, I'm just wondering if this is pretty soon quick now, so we're sort of backed into it.
Well, one of the things we liked about the state police, they cruise the back roads.
Yeah.
You know, they're on the back roads, and like one of the reasons we switched was because the sheriff's actually even told us they didn't do anything criminal. And when we had so damn many break-ins going all around and all this stuff, and now you think even somebody called up, like, wasn't it Gary Katz or something, even said one time somebody mentioned something about it and they said, well, pretty much, sheriff's pretty much, somebody told him pretty much just shoot the guy, he's out because, they're not coming out for that, If he's in your place, get him, just don't let him leave the doorstep, And they said that, so we went with the state police because we were having so many break-ins around. Like I said, we weren't worried at the time that they're out stopping people for speeding. And if you catch them speeding, fine, But I wanted to see their presence out on the back roads.
Oh, yeah.
Because that keeps the crooks maybe from coming around quite as much,
Well, it looks like this contract, just this contract that we will, if we have it, is for the it's criminal and motor vehicle laws, but on top of that, they are doing investigations for other crimes, so
Right.
it's helpful to have that around.
Right. I thought they've been doing a
General
pretty good
police
job.
services.
I have not had a problem with it.
And you do see them around on a lot of these back roads, so.
Yeah, it says the state of, the Vermont State Police will enforce criminal and motor vehicle laws and ordinances on all lands and public highways within the town of Newfane.
Well, they have to,
So that's general. They'll
That's
patrol
why
the
we
roads
went with the state police.
to
instead of the sheriff's
deter
That makes sense.
and prevent criminal activity, interact with the community, and foster the relationship between the residents of Newfane and the Vermont State Police and other services as required. My only question is because we're having such a concern with traffic calming control out in Williamsville, that, this is
Oh,
just...
they set around.
Yeah.
But we didn't tell them that's what we wanted all the time,
Do we want to
if
consider
you're there.
more?
I think,
Point of information.
What is the budget that we have for,
10,000.
okay. So we'll have to wait and talk about that when we do the budget for next year.
Williamsville, they've been checking them. They've had no problems in Williamsville. They've picked a lot of people up in South Newfane. No problem in Williamsville.
Oh, okay.
No, that's all
And I
I
know the
know
village
is
of
that
Newfane
Jay
has a
told
contract
me.
with the sheriff's department for
That
the
the
village of
police
Newfane,
talked to
so
him
they
about
can
it.
spend
But
their
in South
time.
Newfane, they're having the issues
Yeah,
on that long stretch out there.
So, do we make a
No, right,
motion on this
village.
now, or are you going to revisit it?
no, I
They're
perfectly
sign it.
happy to.
You just have to sign it?
Yeah, is there just one place for signature?
Print and sign.
Right, that's fine.
I make a motion to accept the state police, have the chair sign it.
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor, say please say aye.
I
Opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you. Let's get us still going. Okay, the treasurer has prepared a report that goes to, I believe, the state. And it's a pretty detailed questionnaire. Let me read a couple of the questions, just at random. Are all town accounts recorded currently maintained by one individual? Have select board members attended financial training? Oh, that's a no.
I have it.
Have you deposited any non-town monies into account? Our financial records are maintained with a computerized system. They're all of that nature. So we have to acknowledge receipt of this form, and if someone would make a motion, we'll do it.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Take care of that later. Oh, this is part and parcel of that. Yep. Yes. We have a flyer from VLCT, or as part of one of their publications about lease lands, which is essentially glebe lands. And I understand we do have a few. I wasn't aware of that before, but is there anything that we have to do on this except just be aware of it?
You have to make a motion, or at least be aware that there's a deadline and you have to do something before the deadline.
When is the deadline?
January.
Yep. January 1st, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The lease lands have to be transferred.
Or you can just make a motion to retain all property and deal with them on a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, you're going to have to investigate and do title research in order to
I was,
determine.
go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make the public aware, glebe lands are also known as lease lands, and they're the type of public land the Vermont Supreme Court once called a somewhat unusual Vermont institution. Many of the original charters for Vermont towns contained reservations of parcels of land for the Church of England, pre-revolutionary, and for the use of schools, colleges, or the support of the ministry. So those are the lands that we're talking about.
Right. I wonder if it wouldn't be useful for you, this was, I had a very, very shallow connection to this. I didn't know, still don't. What else would you like to have copies? We don't have to do anything quick, and we'll put them in your boxes so we can
I would like a copy of
act
that.
on it later.
They're all in the boxes.
I did not have one.
Well,
I got extra copies,
if,
or partial copies.
I'd like to know where the glebe lands are. I know where one is, but
We have a map.
The recent one that was dealt with is over on Toby Hill. It's over by Frank Sapansky, Penner's, Sykes's, Slater's over in that area. Doris, the lister, she showed me the map of the previous, but all of that had been remapped out, so the property lines have all been changed since the glebe lands were first done, but she said that Frank's property was listed down at the bottom. So it's over in South Newfane, Dover area.
well, there's one up on Parish heading up towards the old county road. There's glebe land up there.
So it would be on the back side of that
Your
property coming
husband
back.
logged it. Your husband logged it.
On the
Great,
back side of Mandel's.
Gray owns, their land was glebe land.
okay, I'm sorry, Christopher, I interrupted. I didn't mean to butt in on you. I'll check with the listers as to what is involved now, and we'll bring this back. We don't have to take an action tonight. We'll bring this back to a future meeting.
That's very good.
They're strongly recommending that towns hire legal counsel and make an inventory, do title searches, and that sort of thing you'll find in that article.
Let me start with the listers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion that we revisit this at our next meeting?
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Okay, I think that's it, right?
That's it, now.
And pay orders.
Yeah, I know, I was just meant as far as correspondence was concerned.
Yeah.
I'll deal with those. Okay, we will then turn to pay orders, and if members of the public don't want to stay around for the most boring part of the evening, thank you for being here, and see you again.